this video we are going to continue to work on our enemy AI. In the last video we made sure that we can attack him and he can walk to our position. When we are done with this video, he should be able to recalculate his path so that he will follow the player. Let's say if the player is standing here and he would walk over here, the AI should know that he needs to walk to this position instead of just walking down here. Another thing we will also add, when he reaches the player's position, he will evade and go back to his own position. That's just a placeholder thing in general. When he hits the player, of course he will start attacking him or follow him if he's not close enough to attack. So that's what we will be doing in this video. I've tested some things around, and I think like the best way to implement this is to base our pathfinding on the grid. And what do I mean by basing it on the grid? Right now it's based on the player's position and the grid. So let's say the player is standing right here. Then it will take the player's position and say that this position of the player is where we need to walk to, and then we compare it to the tile map. However, what if the player is standing right here? Well, then the player's position is out in the water, and it will try to pathfind into the water because the player is half in the water and that's the player's position. And if I check up the player's position towards the what is called the tile map, then it will think it's out in the water here. So we need to base it on the tiles the player is standing on instead. So what we're going to do is to add some colliders to all the tiles. So when a player enters a tile like this, it will mark this tile as the player's current tile, and the same for the enemy. The enemy spawns here. This is the enemy's current tile. So it will take the enemy's current tile and pathfind from this tile towards the player's tile, and the second the player enters another tile, it will change this tile. So let's say the player has the current tile. If it walks up here, it's not going to change this current tile here because there's no tiles out here to collide with. And in that case, the enemy will just pathfind to this one, and then when it enters the tile, it can walk up towards him. So that's what we are going to do here in this video. To make this work, we need to add some colliders to all the tiles. Right now, the game world, the grid, and let's see here, the ground already has some colliders on it so that I can click around. However, this grid here, this tile map, is used for pathfinding when I right click, and I'm not sure how to get a specific tile position here by colliding with it. I had some problems making that work correctly. So instead of just trying to figure that out, I figured we can just add our own objects to it so all of them have a collider on them. So long story short, just create a new sprite, or select your sprites, find your environment and find your earth tiles. Take any earth tile from grass to sand or something. If you take that and pull it into the scene, you right click and say add a box collider to D. Then you make sure the box collider is a trigger and you remove the sprite renderer. You then rename the grass tile to what you called ground collider. Makes sense. Then open the prefabs and take the ground collider and put it inside the environment. So now we have a ground collider prefab. Delete the one from the scene, and then we need to create our own what is called tile. So let's go to tile assets. Actually, not tile assets. Let's go to scripts and tile scripts. Select any of the tiles. For example, you can take the no diagonal tile, Control D to duplicate it, and you can then rename it to grass tile, or what we call it, yeah, grass tile. So this is my grass tile. If we open that one up, here it will say no diagonal tile. Just rename it to grass tile here, and copy grass tile and rename everything that has something to do with no diagonal to grass right here. There. Okay. With that done, we need to make sure that we're not adding it to no diagonal, because then we're never going to be able to walk diagonal on any grass. And this one's called create water tile. Let's just call it create grass tile. So I think that's it. With that done, we save. We go back here, right click anywhere, say create tiles. Let's see, where is it there? And we can't see our tile. Let's see, we have something here. It says it always contains. Okay, just needed to update. That's it. So right click, create tiles and grass tile. Add it to your asset folder, tile assets, and call it grass tile there. With that done, we select the tile palette. We go to our grass tile here and pull it in. Actually, just select it first. Go to the inspector and make sure it has a sprite. Select your preferred grass tile, -3. And instance game object would be ground collider. And then you take the grass tile and you put it somewhere so you remember that this one is the ground collider tile. Then you select your scene, you select the tool for painting, like the square tool, select the ground, make sure the ground tile mat is selected, select your new tile, and then color over the whole map with that new tile. Don't mind that the sand is disappearing and everything, we can add that later, but for now I'm just going to show you how to do this with one tile. You can make another one with sand, do the exact same thing, and then paint. One thing that's important is the fact that you need to select the eraser and erase all the water on the grass, so that the water or the grass doesn't have, so that there are no grass tiles below the water, because then we will still try to walk into them. So just make sure that you select all your water and just remove all the grass here. If you're not sure if it worked, you can select your ground and you can see that there's still something there. You can look at the tile map and see if there's a grid, and there's not because there's collide on it, but now it's gone. You can also take the ground and disable it. Oops, not the ground, the water. Disable it and enable, so you can see that it fits the ground. Anyway, with that done, we should now tag it. So let's go to our prefabs, environment, ground collider, select the tag, add and call it ground with capital G. So ground. Make sure you go back to the ground collider and set it the tag there. With that done, we need to go into our scripts and let's find our A-star was pathfinding. Let's create a new script here, and we call this one current tile script. So this one will contain or keep track of our current tile, if it wanted to open the right one up there. So we're going to make a private character called character, serialize it, and I would like to go to my character script and make a property for a, what should we call it, transform my current tile. This is the current tile. This is the transform of the tile that the player is standing on at the moment. Okay, so we go back to our current tile script and make an onTrigger enter 2D, and if our collision dot tag is ground, then we say character dot my current tile is collision dot transform. So now we have a reference to the current tile that we're standing on. So with all this set up, everything should still work as it did before, because we haven't changed anything. So I should still be able to shoot the enemy and make him walk towards me. However, now I will have to find my path state. Inside the path state, there's a few things we need to change to make sure that we use the, the tiles position instead of my own position. So let's do that. Okay, first of all, we have the parent there, it's fine. I would like to change this, because right now parent.transform is actually referring to this enemy here. But I would like for it to refer to this enemy, so that I have, I'm moving the actual object that has everything in it. So transform would be parent.transform.parent instead. I would also need to make a target position. And the target position will be set by saying player.myInstance.myCurrentTile.position. So this is where we're starting to use the current tile instead of the player's own position. If we didn't use tiles, we will do like this, player.myInstance.position instead, or transform.position, right? But right now we're using tiles, so we do like this. Okay. First of all, the reason that we have this target position is to make sure that we check up on the target position while moving, so we know when we need to calculate the path, and also to make sure that we don't try to calculate a path towards a tile we're already standing on. So let's say the enemy is already standing on the player's tile. If that's the case, we don't need to create a path, because then we will get an infinite loop because we're trying to find ourselves. So we say if my target position is different from my parent dot my current tile dot position. Whoa, yeah, particle system. Parent dot my current tile dot position. So if the target position, which is the player's tile, is different from my own tile, well, then I try to find a path. I need to change something here. Right here, I don't need to say parent transform and so on. I need to say parent dot my current tile dot position, and also target position here. So let's just say target position there. Okay, with that in place, we also need to check if we have a path. In some cases, we can't find a path and we need to evade our player, not our player, our enemy. So if path isn't null, if the path isn't null, then we continue with this. We keep on going and we pop everything and go on. We also need to say parent dot my current tile, that position here. Then we go down here and say else parent dot change state, new evade state. There. Okay, so that's enter. That's a lot of code. Let's see. We could go down here into our exit and say path null. We need to set our path to null if we exit this. Later we're going to change this, but I don't want to change this right now. But yeah, let's not go into that now. If the path isn't null, then we say transform dot position, not parent anymore, just transform dot position. Vector 2 moves towards transform dot position towards our destination. Our destination is now my parent, is that tile map, destination, that's fine. The distance is calculated by saying destination and transform the position now, because we changed this little line up here so that we don't have to write it all out here. And all these are the same. Okay, so when it gets interesting is when we get down here, we would actually have to make sure we can recalculate our path, but I'm not sure if I want to do that right now. I think I want to test it, test that everything works as it did before. So let's try to save. And the moment of truth, let's see. Oh yeah, we forgot something. If we take our enemy, remember we created that collider script. We created this current tile script. We haven't used it yet. Actually, I'd like to go to the enemy, and I would like to take the collider script and add it to its hitbox, and then take the enemy character and drag onto there. Then we'd like to right click and duplicate the hitbox and add it as a child object of my player, all the way in here. Take it and move it to my player, and try to center it on the player so that it doesn't change tile unless he's like totally on it. The reason that I don't put it on the feet is the fact if I would just walk a little down and the feet hits this one, then the enemy will think the player is standing here and it looks awkward when he walks towards him. So we'll have it about the center of the player. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do this. I can go over here and let's see what happens if I try to attack the enemy. Okay, so we have an, oh yeah, okay. We have a null reference exception. Let's see what is null. Enemy, it's on the player maybe. On the player we need to set the reference to the player on the hitbox, and he still needs to have the enemy. Let's see what else was null. Enemy state, path date 27. Let's see what's there. Path date 20, target position. Yeah, that's why, because it was null. Okay, before we test everything actually, we should just save. I had some problems when I was creating this. I had some problems with infinite loops and everything. When you make pathfinding, it's a search on the whole grid. for some reason, if you make a mistake in your code, you might have an infinite loop and your program freezes and you have to crash Unity to open it up again. Make sure every time you make a change, save, so that you don't have, every time you make a change to the scene, that is, save so you don't have to set up your scene every single time. So now I saved, I'm safe. If I get an infinite loop or something, I can still crash it and open it up and have it as it is now. Let's see here. So we hit the enemy and he should walk to the player's position now. And he did. Okay. And this, it works exactly the same way as before, right? If I would attack the enemy and stand on this tile, well, it's simply going to walk towards the tile regardless of what I do. If I go over here, it should still walk to this tile here. And it does, okay? So far so good. Now we would like to recalculate the path. And how do we do that? Well, we don't want to follow the player right now. That's for the next video, but we simply want him to recalculate the path. So let's see here. In path is not null, I guess. Oh, it's enter. Sorry, I want to be down here. That's why it looked different. I want to say if my target position. So if I pop something and I have the new destination, well, if my target position is different. Remember, the target position is the tile that the player was standing on when he attacked me. So when I notified my enemy that, hey, you need to attack me, the enemy saw that I was standing right here. Well, we need to check if the player, my current tile, oh, my current tile, the position is different from the target position. Well, if this case is true, if the target position is different from the player's position, then the player has moved to another tile. In that case, we simply need to say parent.changeState, new path state. Because we need to reinstantiate our state, and we simply do that by doing like this. Else, we say path null and parent. We can actually just copy this one and paste it. So why do we need to change the state here? Well, in some cases, if we get in some weird situation where we have no more path available and we're not close enough to the player to attack him or follow him, well, then we need to make a new path state. Let's say the player teleported somewhere, he's standing somewhere, he just teleported like in between something without this triggering, and we have no more path. Well, okay, then we need to do this. Just try to save. And let's see, are we even evading? Yeah, we are evading here. So if I hit the player, we should be evading back to our start position. Let's see, let's try to see here. First of all, let's attack him. I should be moving over here. And if I just start moving, he should just change his path, as you can see, towards like whatever position that I'm choosing. Right here, go down here, and now he hit me, so now he's evading. And evade right now is just walking over anything to get back to my position. There are different things we can do about the evade. We can say when he's actually evading, he calculates a path from his point back to start, where he started from, but again, that might also make some errors because if there's no path available to go back, and he might be evading because there's no path. So in general, I think maybe it looks weird, but it would be fine if he just runs back to his position through trees and everything just to evade. But it's basically up to you how you want to implement that. But yeah, let's look at that later. So now we have an enemy that recalculates his path based on the player's position. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching.